Now available in paperback and e-readers. From the author of the critically acclaimed book The Man Crisis comes The Woman Crisis. Learn why so many women have become lost in their quest to have it all in The Woman Crisis. Get your copy of The Woman Crisis in paperback and e-readers everywhere at online booksellers today. Hollywood Historical Women in Crisis. One of my viewers wanted me to make a video about Lil' Kim, and I've decided to make it an installment in another episode of the Hollywood Historical Women in Crisis series. All images used in this video are under fair use of United States copyright law of 1976 and are used in conjunction with my commentary. Now, before Lil' Kim became Lil' Kim, she was born Kimberly Denise Jones, the second child of Linwood Jones, a former U.S. Marine. And Kimberly Denise Jones grew up in a basically middle-class two-parent household in Brooklyn and attended Queen of All Saints Elementary School, a Catholic school, until she was about 9 years old. And when Kimberly Denise Jones was 9 years old, she basically started on the road to becoming a woman in crisis because her mother and her father wound up separating after alleged emotional abuse, verbal abuse, and one alleged incident of domestic violence. And as a result, Kimberly Jones's mother decided to take her and her brother and move to Mount Vernon and divorced her father, and it was then that Kimberly Denise Jones' entire life became extremely tumultuous because Kimberly Denise Jones longed to go back to her father and eventually did wind up going back to her father when her mother was unable to care for her and her brother because after the divorce, she was drifting from place to place. And as she was drifting from place to place, there was no way to really care for Kimberly Denise Jones, who fell through the cracks of life. And as she fell through the cracks of life, her relationship at home became more and more troubled because as she started living with her father in the beginning was getting along well with her when she was a small child, but when she became an adolescent, that's when she and her father started to have lots of friction. And they started to have friction because I believe Kimberly Jones's father was one of these beta males, and in the world of the beta male wants everything smooth, and because a beta male wants everything in his world to just go one way so that they can have no conflicts, problems, or obstacles, this is where these males wind up having problems as related to running a family and a household. Because the reason why I believe Lil' Kim's entire family fell apart is because her father, a former Marine, was used to structure and things being regimented and going one way in order to make his world smooth. However, a family doesn't work like that, and in a family situation, a man has to be able to adapt to a situation in order to solve problems, and this is where I believe Lil' Kim's father started having issues with his mother, not his mother, but his wife, and also with his daughter, because when you are dealing with an adolescent, their body is changing, and they go out here and they look to test boundaries to see where things are going to be safe, and this is something beta males have a serious problem with, because a beta male wants to go out here and keep everything the same, not looking to try to teach and show a young person where the line is, and also provide them with the guidance that they need. And instead of providing Kimberly Jones with the guidance that she needed, Kimberly Jones had a lot of friction with her father, and as she had friction with her father, the home that she was in became extremely toxic because as she was trying boundaries, she was not finding the emotional security that she needed to meet her emotional needs, to let her know that she was loved. And when a daughter is in a home with a beta male father, again, she does not get nurtured and get her emotional needs met when she's in adolescence, because many of these fathers don't understand that when you're dealing with a daughter going through puberty, you're going to be dealing with a lot of different challenges, and a lot of these guys just don't know how to handle those challenges. So all they do is get more and more frustrated, and as they get more and more frustrated, what happens is that these daughters wind up on a road where they start to become insecure about their own sense of self-worth, their own sense of self-esteem, and this was a major problem that would follow Kimberly Jones into her career as rapper Lil Kim. And as she was out here and having these issues as related to her relationship with her father, things eventually wound up coming to a head when she was about 14 years old. And when she was 14 years old, this is when she decided to just leave the toxic environment of her father's home. And when she decided to leave the toxic environment of her father's home because she was tired of the verbal abuse and tired of the emotional abuse from her father, this is where she decided to just go out and just start staying with friends, and then eventually started going out and living on the streets. And when she started living on the streets, she was out here just doing all sorts of stuff. I mean, she was out here allegedly just wandering in and out of her neighbors' homes. She was out here just doing whatever she had to do to survive. And she has admitted to going out here and selling drugs and working odd jobs and even having sex with different men. So she was out here in these streets with the Pookies and the Ray Rays, and she was out here in these streets with those Pookies and those Ray Rays, sadly, because she didn't have a stable home health environment that provided her with a way to get her emotional needs met. And as she was on those streets, again, just being taken advantage of by predatory males like Pookies and Ray Rays, and having sex with older dudes who basically were just keeping her in the house, basically because they wanted to go out here and, as I see it, sexually abuse a child. Kimberly Jones had become a very hardened person who was in these streets, and eventually, when she was 17 years old, she ran into Christopher Wallace, also known as Biggie Smalls, or the Notorious B.I.G., and it was Biggie Smalls who went out here and gave her some protection. And the 6-foot, 300-pound drug dealer, he had already done time in jail, but also looked out for Kimberly Jones and made her a part of his B.I.G. family, and he was also a part of the Bad Boy Entertainment. So he gave her a shelter as related to an environment where she could feel some sort of protection. However, that protection came with a lot of more verbal abuse, because it was alleged that Biggie Smalls and many of the people in the P. Diddy's crew basically went out here and would roast Kimberly Jones as related to her skin tone, and this further added to more of a complex that Kimberly Jones was dealing with as related to her sense of self-worth, and this led to her having really serious issues as related to her sense of self overall. Now, as she was with Notorious B.I.G., she was learning more about the rap game and got inspiration from legendary female rappers like MC Lyte, Queen Latifah, and the Lady of Rage to create her own rap style. And as she went out here creating her own rap style, she became a part of the Junior Mafia that Biggie Smalls had. And as she became a part of that Junior Mafia rap group, she started developing her own rap style, and eventually, as she developed her own rap style, she had created her own rap album, which was the 1995 album Hardcore. Now, the 1995 album Hardcore was a very revolutionary record, and it was a revolutionary record because it was the first record by a female rapper that promoted a hypersexualized image of black women in a rap genre where most of the black women oftentimes presented themselves with a positive image of black womanhood and an image that elevated a respectable image like Queen Latifah, MC Lyte, Monie Love, and many other female black rappers at the time. They oftentimes presented an image of respectability. However, Kimberly Jones, this Little Kim character, was about presenting an image of hypersexuality. And as she presented this image of hypersexuality, it was designed to go out here and create an image that basically fit the whole genre of the gangster rapper, a social construct created by Madison Avenue and Hollywood. And this hypersexualized female image basically caught on, I believe, primarily due to the extremely raunchy cover of the Little Kim hardcore album. And as this album caught on, it went out here to create a career for Kimberly Jones, which was about promoting this image, again, of hypersexuality. And sadly, this image of hypersexuality was something that Kimberly Jones thought was going to elevate her, but because she did not have a good education in the white supremacy's this image of black women and how white supremacy wanted to go out here and create a negative image of black women, she didn't understand she was buying into a stereotype about the black Jezebel, and went out here and promoted this whole, again, image about being this woman who's out here and hypersexualized and looking to go out here and get paid and make all of this big money. And again, promoting this image, it was all about promoting the ideas that, again, passively were about empowering herself, but aggressively were about promoting anti-black narratives towards destroying the image of black women. And as Kimberly Jones was out here and she had made this album, she was still a woman further in crisis because sadly Notorious B.I.G. wound up passing away after a shootout, and after he wound up passing away, she wound up in a lot of bad situations. And I believe that even before that, she had gotten involved with a Pookie and gotten pregnant and gotten an abortion. So she had been on a road to becoming a woman in crisis. And as her career has gone on, she has gone on to become a woman further in crisis, because even though she has achieved great success as a part of the genre of rap music, she still struggles with serious issues of self-hatred. And those serious issues of self-hatred have made it where Little Kim has gone from being a star with a lot of success to a woman whose whole face and body have become so disfigured from plastic surgery that she has become a caricature of herself. Because even though she has gone out here and made tremendous success as an entertainer and has gone on from being a rapper with multi-platinum albums and starred in movies like Moulin Rouge and gone on to have, again, tremendous success, she still struggles with issues as related to her own self-image, and it is those issues as related to her self-image that are connected to her daddy issues from that whole toxic relationship with her father and her experiences with men like Notorious B.I.G. and members of the P. Diddy family, and those images as issues as related to her skin tone have her thinking that she needs to become like a white woman in order to find acceptance in society. Now, as Kimberly Denise Jones started out, she was a beautiful brown-skinned sister who was extremely attractive, and sadly she couldn't see her own beauty. And because she couldn't see her own beauty, she looked to try to change herself to become more acceptable to herself and her imagined perception of what would be an ideal image that would be appealing to another black person. Now, as Little Kim was out here, she started doing plastic surgery, and as she started doing plastic surgery, she started to go out here and started to change her nose. She started to put on these blonde wigs and blonde weaves. And when we look at Little Kim today, she basically looks like a caricature of a white woman. Her eyes are basically looking somewhat Asian. She's got these huge cheekbones, and she covers it up with a gallon of makeup 2 or 3 shades lighter than her in her body. And this complete distorted image of self shows how deep the self-hatred Kimberly Jones has for herself, because she doesn't see black as beautiful. No, she sees some sort of idealized image of white being beautiful. However, that image of whiteness is something that makes her look like just a caricature of a human being. And it takes me back to what I was writing in one of my books, Isis the Beauty Myth, where Isis is confronted by Rahima Sanders. And Rahima Sanders, the head of the Sepia Cosmetics Corporation, doesn't even look like a black person anymore, because she's basically cut herself up. And because she cut herself up, she no longer looks like anything like God made her when she was born. And that really reminded me a lot of what Rahima did to herself in the story Wrath of the Cyber Goddess, where Rahima turned herself into a cyber goddess in order to become an ultimate ideal of beauty. And when I think about what happened with Little Kim and how she had been just consumed with self-hatred, it really takes me back to Isis the Beauty Myth, because like Rahima Sanders, Little Kim is out here. She wants to be this so-called perfect image, but the irony is, as she looks to become perfect by man's standard, she winds up turning herself more and more into an abomination. And this abomination, again, is disturbing because it just shows how deep the self-hatred goes in the black mind. And it's that self-hatred of being black that makes Little Kim a woman in crisis. And as a woman in crisis, she's somebody who does not love herself, does not love her blackness, does not see beauty in being black. And again, she's a woman in crisis because due to the dysfunctional way she was raised, she never learned how to love herself as a black woman. And that's the saddest part about Little Kim, is that even though she has achieved great success in the rap game, she has achieved great success in Hollywood, and has been elevated to becoming an ideal of beauty, sadly, she cannot see her own beauty herself. And because she can't see her own beauty, what is really sad about Lil' Kim is that we see how little self-esteem that she has. Even though she has gone on to have great success, she just doesn't see how much she's accomplished. And what's really even sadder than that is how white supremacy has gone out here and used Little Kim to destroy the minds of millions of young black girls, because millions of young black girls, after seeing the hypersexualized image of rappers like her, believe that being a hypersexualized woman is a way to empowerment. A hypersexualized woman is a way to go out here and command respect, when what you're doing is just buying into old stereotypes about white supremacy. And what Lil' Kim is being used is as a weapon by white supremacy to destroy the black female mind and make little black girls believe that being a hypersexualized woman, this is something that is going to be positive, when in actuality this is very detrimental to the mental and emotional health of a young sister, because buying into these hypersexualized narratives that were allowed to be promoted on these rap labels, this makes it where a young girl is on the road to her own destruction, because like Little Kim, you're on a road to winding up becoming dysfunctional, because the road Little Kim was on was not a road anybody would have wanted to be on. But Little Kim sadly was on that road to becoming a woman in crisis, because she didn't get any guidance from the first man in her life, her father. And when I look at Little Kim's whole life, it just shows me how a man in crisis can put his daughter on the road to becoming just as much in crisis as she is, even though she could have all of the success in the world as related to the world of business. She's still on the road to becoming a woman in crisis, because she never got that love that made her feel emotionally secure about being herself. Now, if you want to learn more about why many women like Little Kim have self-esteem and self-worth issues, you can pick up my book, The Woman Crisis, on Amazon.com in paperback and Kindle format. You can also find The Woman Crisis at other online booksellers like Smashwords, the iBookstore, and Google Play. And if you want to learn more about why many black women wind up in toxic situations like Little Kim, you can also pick up my book, Why 70% of Black Women Are Single, and you can find that book on Amazon.com as well, along with the books Isis, the Beauty Myth, Isis, Wrath of the Cyber Goddess, and Isis, Revenge of the Cyber Goddess. All three of those stories show us a story about Isis learning how to love herself, and also show us the dark side of black self-hatred of black women have as related to their image. And it's a very thought-provoking story that readers of all ages will learn something from. So you can find all of those books on Amazon.com in paperback and Kindle format. You can also find them in other online bookstores like Smashwords, the iBookstore, and Google Play. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe.